All day, every day, we interact with objects. Some help us, some entertain us, some we find beautiful, and some we may hardly give a second thought. These objects, from the extraordinary to the everyday, can offer students insights into global cultures, histories, and dynamics. One way to structure this interaction is to have students consider, first, what do they see when they look at the object? What do they notice or observe? Then, what do they think about the object? What do they guess it might be? Who might have made it? Who might use it? To whom might it be important? And then finally, what do they wonder? What questions occur to them? What do they find confusing or intriguing about this object? This process involves encouraging students to look closely and carefully at an object, and then to think more expansively about the related questions and ideas that it generates. These questions then become the basis for student learning, leading to new insights about the object itself and the context that produced it.
This sort of little squiggly silver piece, and I don't know what it is, but it kind of looks like it's supposed to be letters. It actually looks like Arabic, but I don't know what it says.
And then there's this thing coming up out of the top that looks like it says up with lots of U's.
Coming out of that is this sort of rocketing circle with these little metal spines coming off of it, and on top of the circle is a hammer and sickle, and it kind of looks like some sort of an atom shooting off into outer space.
So I think that it looks futuristic because of the silver, and I feel like silver is something usually people associate with being from the future, but also just sort of the ball shape with the sort of spikes coming out just doesn't look very old. You know, it looks a bit more modern and funky.
I think I would ask about the globe, and I think it's really interesting that this globe only represents a sort of a little slice of the world, and I would ask what the relevance is of this particular area of the world. And I'm curious if this is supposed to be a rocket or an atom or what exactly it is. So I'd want to know about that. And I'd want to know what this says right here, because I'm not sure. Yeah.
I'm Chris Martin, and I'm the Outreach Director at the Davis Center for Russian and Eurasian Studies. And what I have in my hand is a small tchotchke, better or worse, that represents Sputnik, the satellite, the first satellite that was put into orbit by the Soviets in 1957. And it was a big surprise to everybody, both to Soviet citizens and to the West, who were not expecting the Soviets to sort of leap ahead in what came to be known as the space race at that time. And it made the Soviets feel like they were number one, that they as a society had really accomplished something. And it really sort of fast-tracked the US to spring into action and the Soviets to keep moving to try and sort of get supremacy amongst the stars. And this sort of represents that. It looks like the kind of thing somebody would have had on their desk. And I've actually seen larger versions of it that were music boxes that played the Internationale, which is a Soviet national anthem. And it would have been just sort of a constant reminder, I would imagine, upon looking at it, of the achievements of your nation, of the advancement in science and technology in their nation, and the accomplishment itself of sort of going into space and making the first recorded observations of the Earth. This is a word here. It's in Cyrillic, obviously the Russian alphabet. The word is mir, and the word mir has multiple meanings in Russian. So mean Earth, and it was also the name of the first space station, Mir, the space station Mir of the Soviets launched. And actually, on the gold plate, looked very closely, you would see that It is basically a map of Russia, and it also says on it in small writing, 1957 SSSR, which is the abbreviation for the USSR, in Cyrillic. So it's obviously very highly identified as a Soviet object and artifact.